Welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson, and it's a Friday evening live stream. Yeah, not normally my MO, but you know what? I love live streaming with you guys, and we got a lot of stuff to go over. Like, I nearly crashed this tank again because I'm a moron, and it's actually pretty freaking bad. I'm actually so lucky. So we'll get into that in just a minute. I'm going to hang out for a few minutes. We'll do a quick little channel update type thing. It'll be like a minute or two while we wait for people to come on. So we're trying something a little different today because I want to sit in front of my tank. I love working downstairs. I got the big computer. It's all set up, ready to go. But I set up with the laptop today, and I think it looks pretty darn good. So I've been working real hard on the video kind of stuff lately. I've got new software, all that kind of stuff coming in, which actually unlocks the 10-bit on my camera. So I'm super excited about that. So that should be better color, better just picture, better everything coming your way. So I'm real excited about that. That thing has been back order forever. It was just dumb. So I'm pretty excited to unlock some features to my camera. But now that we're actually getting some people joining in, let's take a minute and talk about what happened. So if you guys are familiar with my setup, I run a big 30-gallon auto top-off tank downstairs. And I don't know, I did something similar to this like 2 months ago, but not near as bad. But, you know, I have an RO tank external to my sump, and I open a valve, and it drains all the water in, and, you know, works great. I've been doing it for like 8 or 9 years. I had kind of planned on setting it up to like a gravity feed style ATO system, which after what just happened, I may end up doing. We'll talk more about that later. And honestly, I'd love your guys' feedback if you've used the gravity stuff. Jake Adams swears by him, and he definitely knows his stuff. So I'm kind of leaning that direction. But let's talk about what happened. So, I don't know, 3 nights ago or so, I turned the valve on to top off my tank, topped it off. When I closed it, I didn't get it all the way tight. Like, it was closed, but it's just barely open. So it sent the entire 30 gallons of water to the sump, which is bad. But I've got 450 gallons total. That's not a problem. The problem is I didn't catch it right away. So not only did it send the entire 30 gallons to the sump, my RO ran all night. I don't know. I probably did this at like 5, 6 o'clock in the evening. I don't honestly remember. And I didn't catch the problem until like 10 o'clock the next day. It wasn't until the lights came on that I started looking at the tank and just like, what's going on? Something's horribly wrong. Like, I'm sure you've all had this feeling when you walk up to your tank and you look at it and stuff's dead and nothing looks good, and you just go into panic mode. Like, what happened? I mean, I go to bed and everything looks great. I love my tank. It's doing the best it's been in a long time. And then you wake up and my hide in the fort. It's like toasting. It's got skeleton exposed. It's dying off like fast. It's like, what happened? Stylophora, the easiest coral in the world, like 90% gone. Like, it was insane. Montiporas showing STN, RTN. It was devastating. So I go downstairs and, you know, I find my sump's like overflowing. We got water pouring out of the sump. Like, I mean, it's off the RO, so at least it's a relatively slow drip. But, I mean, I've got the upgrade on there. I think the thing's capable of like 120 gallons a day. So, I mean, I don't know. This is 12 hours. I mean, theoretically, I'd say we put up to 60 gallons of fresh water into that tank. It was horrifying. Yeah, it was ridiculous. So I'm like freaking out. I dumped tons of salt in. I put like 5 cups of salt in, just straight into the sump. First time I screwed up because I had my pump like blowing towards the inlet. So I dumped salt in, and then the salt would start stirring up, and then it'd just blow all over this display, and it stressed all the coral out. And of course, none of this is what you want to do, right? I mean, the idea with salinity is if you want to make changes, you do it slow, but that's not where I was at, right? We all know the coral's not going to survive at 1.018. So, I mean, I'm dumping salt in. It's like the only way that it's going to work. It was horrible. But I ended up turning the pump and I mixed it and it got better. But I spent most of the day trying to get the salinity up. I got it to 1.022. It's kind of right where it's supposed to be, but I'm an idiot. I screwed up. I should have got that valve shut off. In the short term, I've just started taking the hose itself off. But this tank is looking rough. But in all honesty, considering what happened, I feel so lucky. Like most of the stuff I think is going to be okay. This big money here is STNing, like slow tissue necrosis. I've got a lot of it there. So, I mean, if I can keep just a percentage of it, that's enough. It'll grow back. It'll be fine. The hide that was here, gone. It's dead. I've still got some pieces downstairs. They're not looking great. So I need one of those to pull through so I can save that colony. I mean, I've got monies dying. Sucks. But the actual recovery, I am blown away at how little death there really is. Both of my acros, great. Yeah, both my acros, don't even care. Probably why Jake calls it the immortal tort. It's awesome. Like, I would never have guessed the acros would be the ones dying and that Hydnophora and Stylo would have struggled. But that's what happened. All of the softies have been pulled in for like days. Like what you see now, this guy kind of like puffed up and partly open is kind of the best they've been. I don't know, big pallies and stuff, they don't give a crap. But, you know, the bigger leathers and stuff, they've been struggling with it. So it's been rough. But other things blew me away. This insane red and green Sinarina looks better than ever. Like while I was doing all this, it was like in a feeding frenzy. It was puffed out, bigger and happier than I've ever seen it. So that was really cool. Yeah, so I'm not going to call this a full-on crash. I don't think it is. I think I'm going to lose some coral. I lost, and I don't even know if I'm going to lose whole colonies. Like, I don't know if I'm going to lose like a full strain. Like, I've got lots of frags of a lot of stuff. So it was rough, but the tank's recovering. So that's kind of where we're at there. So I got a lot of stuff we can talk about going forward as to how I'm going to work to prevent some of these problems. But now we'll start with some of the comments. If you guys got questions, comments, put them in the comments column. Marcus Justice, hello. Aqua Stuff, hello. Neriel Patel, I probably screwed your name up. Hi, how are you doing? Sky's Fish Room. Hey, been watching your videos for a couple years now. Great videos. Keep it up. Thank you so much, even though I'm like trying to crash my tank. How much did you lose from the crash? How much money did you lose? Hopefully only coral that was overgrown anyways, I'm hoping. So far, I would put the actual dollar cost at zero. I don't sell coral, so I don't look at a coral dying as something that I've lost, right? Like, as a financial loss, unless I lose the entire thing and have to replace it. But I'm pretty good at growing coral, fragging it, having multiple pieces of it. So if I do lose something, I can always have a backup. That's easier said than done for a lot of corals and others, like Cinerina, big LPS, like the bubble. Yeah, those guys, not so fraggable. The bubble's been pulled in, but it's not peeling or anything. So that's good news. So, yeah. All right. So really, this comes down to my system, right? Like, this tank is so much better than I can actually personally financially afford, right? Like, I really struggle to afford everything in this hobby. Like so many of you, I reach for the stars and kind of end up here. So, I mean, everything has been kind of hodgepodge together over the years, and it's been kind of done on a shoestring budget. And I've always been leery of ATOs. When I first set up my system, I used an ATO, one of the old float style, and it was great until you'd get some calcium accretion built up on there and it'd freeze, and then it would just dump all that water straight to your ATO, which at the time sucked, but it wasn't horrible because I didn't run the RO directly to it. But now I have an RO tank that runs down and I turn it on. So I don't know, 3-4 years ago, something like that, I bought all the parts to set up the gravity feed system. So I've got the hosing, the float valve to run the gravity. And then the thought is on the actual sump itself towards the top to drill a hole so that I can actually have a pipe that runs down to one of those floor sensors. And I actually even have the floor sensor. It's not an electronic one. It's the mechanical style that have the pad, when the pad gets wet, it opens it up and turns the valve or signals it to shut the valve off. I have all of it to set up. It's just been sitting in a box for 3 or 4 years because honestly, I don't trust stuff that, can kill the tank that is mechanical or electronic or anything like that if I don't have to. Of course, for whatever reason, in the last 2 months, I have personally failed at this. Like, it's my fault that this stuff didn't work. So that's real frustrating. So that was me. So I'd love to know your guys' opinion on ATOs. How are you handling it? What's your failure rates like? So that's the kind of stuff I'm interested in, really. If money was no object, I'd probably go ahead and buy the controller, put the salinity gauges in, all of that kind of stuff with the backups and all that, which would be ideal. So, we'll see how that kind of stuff goes. Man, those controllers are pricey. The Apex stuff, it looks hard to program. I do YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, but I am far from a computer programmer and stuff. And I know people who know programming better than I do, who struggle with that kind of stuff. So I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards it, but I just saw Rogue Aquarium popped up. Darren has, I believe it's called the Triton, the actual tester. So he gets to see his elk every day. You get the salinity test, and I know it's like $800, but it does not take like any time at all to lose $800 in a tank like this. So as much as I don't want to spend the money on the Apex and the Triton and all that fun stuff, it might be a really good idea. And actually, like Darren's big 600-gallon, I'm blown away by his results. So I'm glad he popped in. That's awesome. Darren, how are you doing? All right. Sky's Fishing Room. Do you have the current coral in the display in your separate system? So some of it I keep here. Some of it I have in a separate system. I only have this tank, the 24-gallon, and then everything downstairs is connected to this tank. So the majority of it's on this system. So the really sensitive stuff, I try to have backups over there, but some of it's just not practical to do. So that's kind of where that's at. So yeah, I did something real stupid. So on to more fun stuff. But yeah, I want to hear whatever you guys have on that. So more fun stuff. I am starting a new YouTube channel with my kid, It's called My Dad Sucks at Fortnite. Link is in the description down below. Basically, we play Fortnite together. So if you guys like Fortnite and you like watching me, Ian and I are doing a Fortnite thing, so check that out. Yeah, looks like he's also in the chat too. So hello, Ian. Okay, Sky's Fish Room. What is your dream fish in the reefing hobby? A yellow tang. It's the most expensive tang in the world these days. No, I'm kidding. You know what? After all the fish I've owned and everything, like the fish that probably I love the most that I wish I had, it's not like crazy uncommon. It's a purple tang. Purple tangs are just so great. They're beautiful. They're zebrasomas. As far as actually taking care of a tang, as far as tangs go, they're relatively easy. They're beautiful. And hey, compared to yellow tang prices these days, they're cheap. I mean, I never thought we'd live in a world where yellow tangs would cost you more than gem tangs. But I've seen gem tangs listed for under $300, and I've seen yellow tangs listed at well over $400. It's the craziest world we live in these days. Yeah, this whole yellow tang and Hawaii ban, it sounds really doom and gloom. And in some ways it is, right? Like, we aren't getting those cool Hawaiian fish. Good news is a lot of them can be found elsewhere, including yellow tangs. This is the part people forget. Yellow tangs are not only from Hawaii. They're all over the Indo-Pacific. They're just really concentrated in Hawaii. Huge amounts of them. They are harder to get from other areas, but it's not like they're not going to be wild collected anymore. They do come in from other places, so it's not the end of the world as far as wild collected yellow tangs go. But you know what I think is even better than that is this is going to push the aquaculture industry even harder to get these tangs captive bred. Yes, we've had problems with that over the years. My yellow tang, you see him right over there. He is the first tank-raised yellow tang from that very first batch. He's in that group that was the first one to make it to a sellable size. And without hobbyists, none of this research would have happened. So the aquarium hobby is making it so this species can last indefinitely, which is great. So we can now breed them, take care of them. Yes, we're still at the point where it needs to be done in big labs and that kind of stuff. Giant vats, giant tanks. Like, you're not going to do it in my 210. But necessity is the mother of invention. So we're going to see that kind of stuff happen. So, you know what? I have a feeling in the long run, this is a good thing. I think there's going to be a day when you can walk into any reef store and you're going to be like, ooh, I want a baby yellow tang. I want a baby purple tang. I want a baby gem tang. And you know what? We see what they do now that they breed clownfish. Like, why couldn't you breed a purple tang and a yellow tang? Like, the hybridization stuff, I think, is going to happen. We see it with native Scopus tangs. So I think we're going to see some pretty cool hybrids. So while the Hawaii ban is sad, and we can talk more about that in a minute because there's some stuff I'm really kind of angry about with it. I think for the hobby itself, we're going to be okay. Like, it's not the end of the world. We're still going to have yellow tangs. It's the super rare Hawaiian fish like peppermint angels and stuff I could never afford anyways, that we're probably going to lose. It sucks. But we'll go more to comments, and if you guys want to talk more about Hawaii, we can do that too. All right. Rogue Aquariums. You wouldn't think the yellow tang would cost the same as a purple tang. No, you wouldn't. It's insane. I never would have guessed. But here's the cool part. I think I've said this years ago. If yellow tangs were as rare as gem tangs, they'd be more expensive. Like, they're the prettier fish. Like, they are amazing, big, bright yellow fish. And in reef tanks, yellow's hard to get. So to have something bright yellow in your tank, it's fantastic. Hi, hi, Scott. Is 80-gallon tank cycling with fish? Do you recommend? I want to do Oh man, I'm having a hard time reading. I'm sorry. Do you recommend so much Santa Claus? Oh man, I'm not sure what Santa Claus is. Z-A-N. Not sure. I'm not sure what that word means. I really apologize. Rogue Aquarium. Philippines as well. Yes, Philippines is putting out cool stuff. Gem tangs have come out of Philippines. There's really cool stuff coming out of Philippines. These markets are open. And at $400 for a yellow tang, you can bet every collector in the Pacific is going to be so much more interested in collecting them. Think about it. When these fish were fetching $35 retail, they weren't going to go too far to find them. But when they're fetching $400 retail, they're going to go find those fish because they're worth a fortune. So it sucks for us as a hobbyist. It's going to hurt our pocketbooks, but it's going to kind of expand where people are collecting, what they're doing, so it's not all doom and gloom. So I'm optimistic. All right. How old is the clam in your tank? Fantastic. Okay, this big clam here, it's a Squamosa clam. It is older than this channel. I bought it in 2012, probably November, September timeframe. He was about that big. I mean, like seriously tiny, like 1 inch. So 2012, that guy's 9 years old now. So 9-year-old clam. When I bought him, I heard clams are hard, and yes, clams can be. There's some tricks to them, like you don't want to get water inside of them. Squamosas, Dorasa, super easy, Maximas. As long as you get a good, healthy one to begin with, you got a cycle tank. They are insanely easy. This clam has been through the craziest tank crashes, right? So all the salinity stuff I did recently, as far as he's concerned, it never happened. He didn't flinch. I've had my heater fail on the old 90-gallon tank, went to like 88 degrees. Didn't care. Like this clam has been so bulletproof. It's been insane. Now, I mean, I've had other clams in the past that haven't done well. I mean, some kind of more rescue type stuff I've taken in. But, you get a good, healthy one, and they can be incredibly hardy. It's not going to be true for all of them, but yeah, they can be amazing. Let's see who else we got. Hi, I'm a bit worried. I have 2 large sponges in my reef, and apparently they release toxins in the tank that bleach corals, but they are classified as reef safe. I'm not quite sure about the sponges releasing toxins. It's not something that I have heard of. Maybe it's the species you have or something. I've kept spider sponges and that kind of stuff. I've personally never experienced it, right? I've kept them professionally. I've kept them in my own tanks. The thing I hate about sponges is we just aren't set up to keep them correctly in reef tanks, no matter how hard I've tried. Like trying direct feeding, trying to keep food in the tank, all that part. I mean, they're filter feeders, and I'm just not good enough at keeping the ornamental sponges alive. Like, I think if we want to keep ornamental sponges long term, we're going to need dedicated systems, probably something closer to those non-photosynthetic setups. That being said, I think these are new frontiers we should all be exploring because, we're getting so much better at keeping reefs. Like once upon a time, keeping a tank like this was hard because you couldn't control the nutrients. Not that big of a deal anymore. There are tens of thousands of tanks out there that are beautiful where nutrients are under control. So, as we progress, hopefully we can start dumping that into the non-photosynthetic stuff. As far as sponges go, I personally don't recommend them for a reef tank, but since you already have it, do your best to feed it. It's not going to be so much of a target feed type thing. It's going to be more of a particulate food in the water because it's going to want to pull the water through it. Basically, sponges, they actually suck water through the body. So that's kind of what we're looking for there. So yeah, but I wouldn't worry too much about it releasing toxins. If you are concerned, run some carbon in your tank. I recommend carbon anyways. I wouldn't like put huge amounts on all the time, but a little goes a long way. Carbon's going to pull a lot of chemicals out of your tank. So that's always a good thing. Rogue aquariums. I'm glad I kept 5 of them back. So Rogue has a 600-gallon tank, which my goal is to get out to his place and check out. That needs to happen soon. We're getting towards the end of this COVID thing. And the goal with the channel is I want to come see your tanks. So I want to see Rogue's tank. I want to go out there. Rogue's a good friend of mine. We've been to MACNA together and all kinds of stuff. But the goal is to start a lot of that kind of stuff in the Colorado area. You've probably seen me visiting some stores and stuff lately. I've got some more stuff set up like that. As we move forwards, I want to start visiting personal tanks. This whole COVID thing, it's been kind of weird. So I'm starting to do more like stores and business type stuff. And then as I really feel comfortable with it, we'll move into doing more of the home stuff. Not just, just the normal fun stuff we got to do. So that's really the goal for the channel. I want to see your tanks. I'm not sure how I'm going to set all that up yet. Probably at some point I'll set up an email and we'll post that on the channel. I'll basically say, I want to see your tanks because that really is what I want to do going forward. It's like, I love making videos of this tank. I love doing a lot of that kind of stuff. But you know what? I want to get out of my house. I'm tired of COVID. I'm tired of being locked in. I want to see your tanks. So tank tours. That's my big focus for 2021, and hopefully we can make that happen. We've got to make it to Washington this year. I think we can do that. Rogue aquariums. If you have a pineapple sponge in your tank, it's a good sign that your water parameters are fairly stable. And what I think he's talking about there is the white sponge, just that common sponge that grows all over the rock. It's actually a great sign that your tank is healthy. This tank grows it like mad. At least it did until a couple days ago. It probably still does. No, but it's a great sign. It's weird because sponge is one of those species that most of the time is hard, but in a tank like this, it can actually grow to the point where it gets out of control. Like people have had it overgrow corals. Really, that's just a sign your tank's doing too good. Last time I heard somebody complain about it, it was Jake. Yeah, of course his tank does too good. So yeah, fun stuff. So yeah, if you got more questions, put them in there, and then check out My Dad Sucks at Fortnite down below. Let's get a little more into the Hawaii stuff, because why not? Okay, so the Hawaii stuff is, as I said, sucks because we're losing all of these cool fish. What makes me mad is the way the law was done. So they cut reefers out completely. So this basically only affects stuff that's collected for the aquarium hobby. So you can still go to Hawaii, spearfish as many big yellow tangs as you want. No limit. You can just go kill as many breeders as you want. But if you try to keep that tang alive, you are in so much trouble. Now, that's absolute crap. That's not the right thing to do for anybody. I mean, they say they want scientific studies as to how the collection is affecting the tang populations, which I fully agree with. I'm a huge fan of science. Science is the right way to solve our problems. What's the wrong way to solve our problems is taking the smallest portion of the problem, cutting that out, and then letting the jerks who are doing massive damage just keep going. Like, sport fishing takes some, but then commercial fishing. Okay, commercial fishing angers me because, you get these big trawlers out there and we have bycatch. Like, it doesn't matter. They fish indiscriminately. They take whatever. They only keep what they want. They dump everything else overboard. And it's monstrous that those assholes get to keep doing what they do. They get to keep pulling fish out of the ocean indiscriminately. Like, who cares? Even stuff that we try to protect, like bluefin tuna, the catch rates are higher than the reproduction rates, so the populations continue to decline. It's monstrous. So, like, what we're looking at is a situation where it's like a billionaire is going bankrupt. Like, he's got all of these problems, right? He's running out of money. He's a billionaire. He's got houses, estates, companies, all of that kind of stuff. And the dude's like, well, I'm going bankrupt. I guess I better cut back on the haircuts. It's like, the haircuts aren't your problem. Get rid of the stupid third home. Get rid of the 15th Ferrari. Like, we have to focus on the real issues. And it's not just commercial fishing. It's the way we manage our oceans in general. So if we want healthy reefs and we want healthy fish populations, we have to take a holistic view of this. It's not just a few people collecting fish for the reef aquarium hobby. It's the entire issue. So fishing needs to be looked at scientifically and addressed, but not just the aquarium side of it. It needs to be sport included in this, and it needs to be commercial, and it needs to be fair. Like, I'm not asking for a lot here. I'm just asking for fairness. Like, the reason they can get away with it, in my opinion, is because the aquarium hobby is small. We're an easy target. Sports fishermen, and I'm not making fun of you sports fishermen, like, I'll go fish. I don't have a problem with fishing. Sports fishermen are a bigger industry. They have a lot more money and a lot more voting power, so they're harder to regulate. And commercial fishing, even more money and even harder to regulate, because people need that fish for food. So the reason they attack the aquarium hobby, we're a soft target. It has nothing to do with the fact that this is for the environment. And in fact, the numbers I have personally seen have shown yellow tang populations in Hawaii are doing really well. Like, that's not the problem. And then they cut it off indiscriminately. It was all collection. It's not down to species. It's all of them. So that's my little high horse for the day. Little rants about that. Thought I'd let you guys know about the crash in the tank. Just kind of a weird hodgepodge of an issue. Let's see. What else do we got? Teen Reefer, sup, Rogue Aquariums. Have you heard how long the ban out of Hawaii is going to last? Hopefully not long. All right. My understanding is they're supposed to do scientific research to see how the aquarium collection is affecting fish populations. Good. I love that. That's great. The problem is scientific research is slow. And if we're not collecting fish, like, how do you do the research? So I don't understand how any of that's going to work. Honestly, it's probably not coming back anytime soon. I'm not optimistic about getting Hawaii back. That's why when I look at what I'm optimistic about, like, we get a lot of cool angels out of there. We're getting so much better at breeding angels. We get a lot of cool tangs out of there. I'd like to see us get better at breeding wrasses. That's a hard one. But, tangs are a pelagic fish. That was always the hard one, are those brood spawners, right? They go up, they spawn, and all the eggs, they just drift in the current. Those are the ones that have always been hard to breed and raise in captivity. And that's what yellow tangs are, and purple tangs, and blue tangs, and all of our tangs. And that's why this was such a challenge. Like, clownfish are easy, right? They lay their eggs right on the side of my clown, or my clam. Like, relatively easy. When they come out, they eat bigger food. So, like, standard rotifers, you can raise them up on. None of that works with tangs. But why I think this is important is because with tangs, we unlocked the technology to start raising these pelagic spawners, these fish that are going to brood spawn in the open. And that is the miracle that I think we gained. And we're so lucky. And the irony is, this research came out of Hawaii. So, I mean, we have the scientists there that know what they're doing. And thank you so much. You guys really, you saved our hobby. Like, honestly, a reef tank without a yellow tang just sounds so sad. But it's never going to be that way because we can breed them. It's so good. I'm so glad. I just don't want to lose my other fish. Like, I want an Achilles someday. I really do. I love Achilles. Oh, man, I saw somebody post a used Achilles on Facebook the other day. I believe it was Mermans in Denver. 2-year-old, like 9-inch Achilles who had been in captivity for 2 years. That's the fish to buy. Achilles, notoriously hard to keep alive when they first come in. So to find one that's been happy, healthy for 2 years that you can just go buy at a local store, that's the fish to buy. I love that fish. And if I had the space, if I had the money, I would have picked him up. But of course I don't have either one. I mean, my powder brown is not going to get along well with an Achilles. And a 9-inch Achilles, he would dominate that tank. All right, what is next? Are there other brands around the world currently affecting the hobby? There are. Okay, so Fiji has been down forever when it comes to coral. It sucks. I honestly don't know what's going on there. As far as the environmental side, what Walt Smith seems to be doing with his program seems like it's great, right? So Walt's out there, even after they have taken his ability to ship live coral, he's still out there feeding these coral back on the reef. He's like still out there trying to repopulate the reefs with corals that he's mariculturing and growing in the ocean. Come on, Fiji, we want our coral back. Walt, you're doing a great job. Keep fighting the good fight. And then, of course, we Americans get hosed when it comes to Fiji. When it comes to the CITES in the U.S., they count the rock that soft coral come on as part of the CITES. So because they count that rock, we can't get soft coral from Fiji. It has nothing to do with the actual soft coral. Soft coral itself is fine. They could ship them in. It's that stupid little rock that the wild collected ones are on. It's the dumbest thing. I mean, it's government, right? Like, they're big, massive organizations. And honestly, our little aquarium hobbies are never their priority. I get that. It sucks because the people of Fiji, they could use the money. I'm sure the government could use the money. We can use the coral. And I believe he calls his organization the ACA. Walt's actually out there taking the coral that's not good to resell and putting it back on the reef. And we're not talking about single pieces. We're talking about tens of thousands of pieces. And they've continued this work even as Fiji has shut down their export operations. So that one sucks. Most countries in the world, we can't get coral from. The entire Caribbean is shut down. Caribbean's weird, right? Like, the Caribbean reefs are absolutely gutted from where they were in the 1950s and 1960s. Like, our Caribbean reefs are destroyed for so many reasons. One of the big ones is there's a disease moving through these reefs, and it's just decimating the coral. It's a disease. Like, at this point, when you have a disease moving through, I think we should be pulling the coral in. God, we aquarists would love to take this coral, put it in our tank, we'll grow it, we'll save those genetics. We can do that. Doesn't mean that they could ever be sent back easily to the wild, but we could at least preserve those genetics. To some extent, this is already happening. Butterfly Pavilion in Aurora has a bunch of Caribbean coral for this very reason. They're the Caribbean reefs are getting taken over by a disease. So they're pulling coral out and keeping it, or pulling disease-free coral out and keeping it for this very reason. Like, they're trying to save these species. Unfortunately, the money is not going to be there. The sizes that are needed to really save these species, I think, can only be done one easy way. And honestly, I think that would be through some smart wild collection and mariculture. I am not arguing for people going out and taking corals directly off the reef. What I am arguing for is a mix of scientists finding us good coral, providing us with those breeding stocks, and then we can either mariculture or aquaculture so that we can preserve these species. I don't know about you. I would personally pay hundreds of dollars for most of these corals, and I would love to see that money go back to saving the reefs. So like we as hobbyists could help fund this and all that, but it'll never happen. So as far as that goes, like, it's kind of shut down. The only thing we're getting out of the Caribbean are like a few anemones and some mushrooms and pallies and stuff like that. So gorgonians are cool. But, you know, all of that kind of stuff we're not getting. Like, a lot of companies only or countries only ship soft corals, like Vietnam. We get amazing soft coral out there. They have amazing LPS and SPS, but we can't get them. Other countries can. So it's this weird mix of what's available worldwide. We get some in the U.S., other countries get others. So, yeah, there's all kinds of weird bans all over the world, just kind of depending on which country you are in. All right, Rogue Aquariums. I got my Achilles from a local reefer who was tearing down his tank. Absolutely my favorite way to get it. Rogue's thanking Walt, because Walt, you do a great job. I love that guy. He's doing amazing stuff down there in Fiji. And he's still shipping fish. He's still shipping the soft coral. Like, buy Fiji fish, support what he does. I'm all about it. Yeah, and then here's another guy saying, like, Brazil. Brazil has its own things. Like, there's great corals that could come out of Brazil. I don't know what's allowed in and out of Brazil, but Brazil would be a great country. Like, we love life. We love coral. We're great at growing coral, even when you do stupid stuff like I do here. Like, look how good this tank looks, considering how dumb I was and the stress I put it under. It's insane that it can look this good. Like, honestly, if they would give us those Caribbean corals, there would be species of elkhorn and all this kind of stuff that you can't find in the wild that would be growing out of people's tanks, and we could preserve those species. And I wish they'd do it for us. It would be amazing. That's what I want. I don't know. You can't have it, though. Maybe someday. All right. What else do we got? I love big Naso fish. I do too. So Nasos are awesome fish. So you've got your normal Nasos, you got your blonde Nasos. There's Flamingi. Here's a species of Nasos. Your unicorns are Nasos. Big, but actually like gentle giants. As far as tangs go, this guy here is just like the model citizen. It's the little yellow tangs and purple tangs who seem to be the buttheads in my world, or the powder blues. These big fish, oh, they're so gentle and docile. The only thing that sucks about him is he's so big, like he doesn't know his own power, so he knocks a bunch of coral off the rock and stuff like that. But Nasos, in my experience, super healthy, easy to take care of fish. Biggest problem with Nasos is they need huge tanks. Like this Flamingi, he'll outgrow this tank someday. Might have to make a special trip to Washington. You want to go live in a 600-gallon, buddy? Not anytime soon. You staying here for now? Darren, he'd look great in your tank, though. I'm telling you. Insane Reefer, what's up? Tomini Tang versus Yellow Tang. There's no verses in my world. Get both. Okay, cool thing about tangs. So if you want to keep multiple tangs in a tank, the easiest way is to keep different genuses. So Zebrasomas are your yellow tangs. I'm not going to pretend to say what the name of the Tumini tang is, but they're bristle tooth. Starts with a C. I can't even spell it, but that's okay. I don't speak Latin. But, look at the genuses and find different ones. And if you look at this tank behind me, that's what we got going on. That's why I've got 5 tangs in this tank. So Flamingi is going to be the genus. Naso. We got the blue tang, which is a genus like PSC, I can't say it either. We got the Tumini in here, who's a bristle-tooth fish or a bristle-tooth tang. And then we got that powder blue, who's Acantharius, kind of aggressive. But when you put different genuses in, you can get multiple different species of tang into the tank. And that's the easiest way to do it. So when you say yellow tang versus Tumini, I'm kind of like, have both unless your tank's not big enough for it. Because what's cool about having different tangs in your tank is they eat different things. So completely different mouth structures and different feeding coming off those 2 fish. So yellow tang is your traditional like long snouted tang. Zebrasoma, where the Tumini is more of that bristle tooth or more kind of scraping at the algae, but they'll eat different things in the tank. So when you mix up your tangs, it does a great job for algae control. So they'll be cruising around the rocks, eating different things, picking different things up. So since they can get along well, they do great together. Pick one or the other. As far as if you're really wanting one just for a worker fish and you can only have one, I'd probably take the Tumini because bristle tooth, in my opinion, are usually the best. Like yellow eye coal tangs, blue eye coal tangs, chevron tangs. They do a fantastic job for cleaning algae. They're a great cleaner fish. And then if you want smaller ones like yellow eye coal tangs and stuff, they're do better in smaller tanks. Your Tuminis will get a little bigger. But as far as picking between yellow and Tumini, pick the one you like best. And if you can do it, have both. It's just a great way to go. Insane Reefer, tank's looking great. Yeah, thank you so much. It's sad because of how good it should be looking. I don't know if you got the beginning, but I nearly crashed this tank by bringing my salinity to 1.018. That was stupid. All right. Which lamp is you using your aquarium? Could it show the filtering part 2? So I think what you're talking about is my lighting up here. Oh, the camera's not going to do that justice. That's all right. So for the actual lights, I've got 3 Kessel A360Xs. And then I've got 2 A160s on here. I've got 4 tubes of T5s. And I've got 2 250-watt metal halides. I've got a lot of light. At this point, it's so much less about par and it's about spread. So if you look at this tank, the way it's set up is it's floor to ceiling coral. What happens when you do that, though, is all the coral want to grow towards the light. Well, that means they all grow up, they all grow towards the light, and inevitably they start to overgrow each other. To help solve some of that, I've really started spreading light around. So I've got A160 right there. It's on one of those articulating arms, so I can shoot the light right where I want it. That's really the goal at this point, is to get the light where I want it. Because I'm kind of moving into this full reef where it's not so much about getting more par down there. It's just getting stuff lit because everything wants to overgrow everything else. Now, obviously, I can go through and cut coral, and I do that all the time because I have to. But I'm a reefer. My goal is to get as much coral in this tank as possible. And if I've got a dead hole that doesn't have light, well, that's a place a coral can be. So if I can get light to it, I can have a coral there. And actually, this Sinularia, who's pulled in because of the salinity issues, that's why that's there. So for years, this was a dead hole. Like, I couldn't put anything there because this big leather above it was shadowing everything out, and I just couldn't put anything there. So I put that A160 with the articulating arm. It shoots straight down there, and now I have a big green Sinularia, and it's doing amazing right there. So it does good. It does real good. I love having those articulating arms with the Kessel so I can move them, mount them, do everything I want. It's fantastic. Okay, Chris Duncan, how low of a temp can a reef tank safely drop to? So that's going to be kind of dependent on, sorry, I just saw a funny comment come through. We'll tell you about it in a second. Okay. So, okay, tank temps, how low can they go to? It's dependent on the coral themselves. If we look at our kind of natural tropical reefs, we're in the low 70s. So let's call it 72 to mid to upper 80s and kind of those tidal lagoon tanks, right? So on the low end, this tank in the winter, 76, 77 degrees is where I've run it. But I've had it 74, 73, 72 on the low end, and it's done fine. Low temperatures are actually not as bad as high temperatures. When I was, I've had boxes of coral come in that were late in the winter. They were freezing cold. You take that bag out of the water, and it is cold, like 50 degrees, just cold. And it's been sensitive coral, like acropora. And it's just stuff like you open the box and it's cold and you know it's dead. And you pull it out and it's an acro. And it's fine. It's an acro and it's fine. Like, this is not uncommon. Like, I've had enough coral live through cold that I'm amazed at how hardy they are in colder temperatures. So where that actual limit to how low you can run your tank is, personally, 74, 75 degrees is the low end of where I would keep most coral species. That being said, I think if you want to zone push and push for certain colder water species, you can definitely do that. Definitely not 50 degrees for the long term, but I am blown away at how amazing that works. Holy crap, Gold Slinger, thank you so much. You are the man. Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, you're the best. Gold Slinger just gave me a live chat. I so appreciate it. $49.99. That is so nice. T-Rex Genius. Colio Flamingi Big Boy. IW Big Boy. That's his name, assuming I can remember it. Yeah, so sorry, text message. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, kind of a hodgepodge of a reef show. I nearly crashed my tank. We talked about some Hawaiian fish. I've done kind of a reef update. You guys have any more questions? Put them in now. I'm happy to stick around. If not, I think we're probably at a good place for me to go play some Fortnite. Why did I say Fortnite? Because I've done a new channel with my son, Ian. It's called My Dad Sucks at Fortnite. Basically, we play Fortnite just for fun. I'm terrible at it, but we play together. So we're just recording what we do. We put it out there. You guys enjoy what I do. You probably love the channel. If you love Fortnite, you'll love it. Gold Slinger, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Come check out My Dad Sucks at Fortnite. It'll be great. All right, guys. We'll see you guys later. I appreciate all of you, and we're going to come see your tanks soon. I promise. It's going to happen.